Good morning. This is Mike Malostin with IPC, and this morning we're going to run through the new CSE program, the Certified Standards Expert program, and also some MIT/CIT changes. Dave Hernandez is with us, as well as Amy Wright. They're going to be running the program today. Just as a reminder for all of you, this webinar is being recorded. Also, you will automatically get a recording by email of this meeting today. I noticed that we still have some participants coming in, so we'll hold off for a few minutes. Again, this is Mike Malostin. I'm actually going to turn over the meeting to Dave Hernandez, and he will run through the webinar with you.
Thank you, Mike. All right, just to make sure that everyone can hear me loud and clear, there is a Q&A button on the bottom. This is a new system that we're using. This isn't GoToWebinar. This is a new thing that we're doing with Zoom. So it's slightly different this time than in our previous webinars. There's a Q&A button on the bottom. Can someone just type in the Q&A, type a quick question in there and say hi or something like that, just so that we know that everything's working and that you can hear me okay? Oh, perfect. Thank you very much, everyone. So I'm going to dismiss a bunch of these that came in. Perfect. So if you have a question throughout, that's where you would write your questions for us to answer at the end of the webinar. I'm going to ask everyone. So typically in these types of webinars, people ask questions throughout. Okay. The first half of the webinar, we're going to focus on CSE, and we're going to talk a little bit about the program. We're going to show you a little bit about how it looks like on Edge. And then we'll talk about the CIT MIT changes for the materials after that in the second half. So what I'm going to ask is, if you have any questions on CSE, hold off until we get through the CSE question, and then ask any of your CSE questions then, because we won't be talking about CSE anymore. And then once we're done with the CIT MIT questions, if you can ask your questions about the CIT and MIT, then that'd be good. Because I think what we've been doing is we've been collecting questions that we have been getting via email and putting them together in these slides, and as well as in kind of the walkthrough, to make sure that we cover everything that any of the questions that we've already been receiving. So we think we're going to cover most of the questions that everyone has. Obviously, I don't think we'll hit everything, but we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to listen to everything that we're saying before we ask any other additional questions. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. All right, everyone should be able to see my screen now, or in a moment it should come up. So we'll go ahead and get started. It seems like the numbers have plateaued a little bit as far as people logging in. So we will go ahead and get started. So we're going to start talking about the CSE program. First off, actually, I'm sorry, I should have introduced myself first in case there's anyone who doesn't know me. My name's Dave Hernandez. I work with IPC on the education and certification programs, and I'm joined by Amy Wright, who's our director of certification operations and systems. And there's several other IPC staff members who are part of this. You just heard Mike introduce us. So the CSE program. What is the CSE program? The CSE program, CSE stands for Certified Standards Expert. Where did this certification come from, and what is this certification? What does it certify? So the program came from from something that we had been noticing in the industry for a while, and some feedback that we had been receiving from some of our training centers and some of our MITs. Specifically, we were noticing that there was a large percentage of CITs who would become certified as a CIT, but never had any intention of doing any sort of training. Okay, they would become certified, and they were not trainers. They had never trained anything in their life, and they had no real interest in training. When we started asking these people why did they become CITs, the answer that we were receiving was because that's the only thing that's available. It seems to be a trend in what we've been hearing lately from people. And the idea was that these individuals needed a higher level certification to indicate their level of knowledge and understanding on IPC standards in comparison to a CIS, for example. Additionally, there were people, there was another population of people, again, pretty significant, where we were told that they did very informal type of training. What does that mean? It means that, we think of a formal training as what we typically see as a CIT training, a CIS. You go into the classroom, you do a few days of training, you're providing feedback to the students, you're going through, presentations, hands-on demonstrations, all that kind of stuff. At the end of that, they take an assessment. An informal training is more along the lines of, this is the person who, if a CIS had a question while they were working, they would go to get more information. And so we wanted to be able to develop a certification program that recognized individuals who had a higher level knowledge than a CIS about an IPC standard, and could help their organization be someone who is a sounding board, someone that you can ask questions to, someone that can help interpret the standard or make a judgment call on something, but that was not an instructor. That again has no real interest in being a traditional classroom instructor. And so that's where the CSE program was birthed from. It was birthed from the idea that there was a group of people that were utilizing the CIT to represent themselves, and it really wasn't a certification that was meant for them. Why? Because the CIT is really meant for instructors. There's requirements for minimum instruction. They had to purchase training material when they never needed it, and so all of these things ended up just wasting time and money for these people. And so this program hopefully will be better suited for those individuals. So who can teach the CSE program? So the CSE program can be taught by MITs, only by MITs, rather. Any MIT that is certified in a program can teach not only the CIS, the CIT, but also the CSE for that program. Okay, they don't need a separate endorsement. Okay, so an MIT who is certified in 610 can train CITs in 610 and CSEs in 610. Okay, so this program is limited to MITs teaching the material. Okay, because the person who's teaching the material needs to have kind of a higher level knowledge of the standard and an understanding of the stuff. And we do want to control, the environments and the testing to ensure that these people actually know the material before they go out there and start working with their organizations. So there's no additional cost to the MIT to be able to teach this program. They don't have to go out and get a separate endorsement. They don't have to go out and do anything. Today, any MIT can teach a CSE program that they could teach a CIT program to. So when you go to register, now you're going to notice that there's several different options. And we wanted to kind of go through that and explain it, because this is how we're moving towards with our other certifications. Hopefully, we're starting with the CSE program. So the one that everyone kind of knows is initial certification. That's used anytime that someone is starting a new certification or being certified for the first time, or their certification has expired and they need to get recertified, not renewed, then they would go out and do that. The initial certification optional only option, which is the second one here, that's used specifically for the CIS. So the CIS program, you only have to really complete the optional module, module 1, in most of the programs. And if you wanted to go on and say, hey, this is their initial certification, and they want to add an additional module without paying for it, because those are complimentary. You don't have to pay again for the optional module add-ons. You would select initial certification optional only. Okay. Then there's this new option called endorsement, right? And so what an endorsement is when you're adding a new initial certification, a new standard to your initial certification. So if I'm a CSE in 610 and I want to add 600, you would select this endorsement, right? Now, some of you may be asking in your head, well, Dave, why would I select endorsement? Before I would just select initial certification, right? One of the things that we're testing out with the CSE program is that we're trying to lower costs for the certification. So whereas the initial certification will be one fee, right? Anytime that you add an endorsement, so your second standard to your CSE, your third one would be at a reduced cost, right? And so we're kind of testing it out with the CSE program. We would like to get to the point where as a CIT, you would see a similar type of reduction in cost where your first certification, so if you're a 610 CIT, your cost would be X. And then for your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth, it would be X minus a certain percentage. We're testing it out with the CSE now and seeing how it works out. Recertification, this is what's used if you need to renew a certification. Again, this is something else that we're testing out with the CSE program. You'll see in a moment when I go through pricing that your initial certification is at a certain cost. And then when you go to renew that certificate, so when you go to renew that certification, it's renewed at a discounted rate. You don't have to pay that same initial cost over and over again. It's at a slightly discounted rate. Again, it's something that we're testing out with this program that we might be able to roll out for the other programs moving forward. And then retesting is used when a candidate fails their initial attempt and their complementary retest. So they have failed twice, let's say, and you need to sign up for a retest. You would do so here. And then this retest option is utilized if someone has failed their base certification. So a CIT who fails their CIT test, or CIS who fails module 1 multiple times, you would do so by using this. The retest optional only option is utilized when a CIS candidate has failed twice one of the optional modules. Okay, we hope to simplify this even more in the future, right? We figured that this was actually simplification by addition. Before, there was a lot of confusion as to which option should be chosen. And so we've kind of better defined, I think, the options for everyone to select. So here's the pricing for the CSE program that we've talked about. The member, non-member pricing, that's the base fee, right? On the top left. And then you'll notice that anytime you're adding an additional standard to it, so an endorsement, you would pay a reduced fee on that. And then you'll notice that reduced fee is also the same fee for your recertification, so that you're paying less when you're renewing it again. And then the retest fee is the same retest fee that we maintain now. So CSE Materials and Waivers. So we've received several questions from training centers and from instructors saying, hey, do we have to buy new materials? How much does it cost? Do we have to buy a new waiver to be able to teach the CSE program in 610 for the training center for each location? And the answer to that is no. We wanted to make this as easy as possible for the trainers and the training centers. So we have eliminated the need for new materials and new waiver cost now. So since currently the CSE and the CIT program are so closely aligned, right? Because it's really kind of the same population at the moment. You can utilize the same materials that you use for the CIT for CSE. And if you have a waiver as a training center to teach CIT programs for a particular standard, you have the same waiver would apply to the CSE program. So if you have the ability to train a 610 CIT, you have the ability to train a 610 CSE at the training center level and at the MIT level. Okay, and so the CQI system will recognize your ability to train that just based upon your MIT status. So again, no additional costs to train this stuff. One of the questions that we received from one of the training centers was, could I have a class that has both CIT and CSE candidates in the same class and then just have them take different tests? The answer is yes. For right now, yes. In the future, would you be able to do that? Not really. And the reason is that, or let me not say not really, maybe. And for parts of it, yes. There is going to be a future divergence of the two programs, right? The CSE is going to remain focused on the standard and a technical understanding of the standard, right? Whereas the CIT and the MIT focus will continue to focus on the technical understanding of the standards, but will also focus a little bit on training, right? So our hope, our desire with the CIT MIT program is to move it in a direction where you're not only learning the standard, but you're learning a little bit about training and education and about managing your classroom and students and all that kind of stuff, and how people learn and all that kind of stuff. So there's going to be a difference in the program in the next few years. And so that will require slightly different materials. But really, I think what's going to happen is that and this is just my projection as to what's going to happen. I predict that the CIT and the MITs will be able to use the same materials to train the technical side of the CSE, and then we'll probably have different presentations that they would use for the pedagogy or the training, additional training side for the CIT MIT. Okay, so how does one become a CSE? Is a training program required to become a CSE? No, a training program is not required to become a CSE. It is strongly recommended, and that's what we will continue to say, that we strongly recommend that anyone that wants to take the CSE program goes and takes a training program, but it's not 100% required, right? So the next two questions kind of tie into that same idea. Is a CIT or MIT automatically a CSE? No, a CSE is a different program than the CIT and MIT it'll have a different P&P document. So how does a CIT or an MIT become a CSE? They have to pass the certification test like anyone else would, right? And so we do want to make it easy for any of the CITs or MITs who have an interest in becoming a CSE to do that for whatever reason they want to become a CSE also. Sure, go ahead and do so. And actually, we're going to hopefully make it easy for you in a minute. But it is a separate thing. It's not like I automatically gain the certification by doing it. So when does the program roll out? The P&P document and an extensive FAQ document are going to be released next Friday. And that P&P document and FAQ will kind of go through all the different nuances of the program. On April 22nd, we're rolling out CSE, all these English programs for CSE. Okay, this is what we call soft launch, right? And what we mean by a soft launch is, since it's a new program and it's a new process and there's a lot of new changes in the system, we wanted to kind of roll it out in a controlled manner. So we're rolling it out in English first. This will allow us to rapidly change anything that needs to be changed as identified as an issue before rolling out the translations. So our best estimation is that in May, assuming there's no serious issues with the English rollout, in May we will be rolling out the translations. Okay. And we'll start off with Mandarin, French, German, Spanish, and then we'll start rolling out the different languages after that. By June, I would suspect that all the languages that are available currently for the CIT program will be available for the CSE program. Okay. With that being said, we did want to offer our MITs an opportunity to become CSEs if they wanted to without having to pay any cost, right? So the way it's going to work is that any MIT that wants to become a CSE can do so in any program that they choose, right? They can sign up for one of them, guys, please, one at a time, and you will gain the full certification. It'll be complimentary, so you don't have to pay anything for us. Actually, I'm sorry, let me go back. It's complimentary, but you will pay for it initially, and we will refund you the money to your CQI account. The reason we want you to pay for it initially is because we want to test the payment system on it in real life kind of terms. We will refund. This is just like with the Edge 2.0 beta, where you paid for the students in the beta and then we will refund you. The way that we're going to do it is, if you're interested in doing it, send us an email, please. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some of the MITs and we're going to make them instructors. We're going to take some of the MITs, we're going to make them students. So you guys will be able to test out both sides of it. And give us any feedback or any issues that you've seen. We've been testing this extensively internally. And then any MIT that acted as an instructor instead of a student will then be able to then take the test after. We'll enroll them in a separate class where Amy or myself will be the instructors so that they can take the test and earn the certification also. And again, this is 100% complimentary, but it's only available to MITs. It's only available for one program at a time. And you can just send us an email if you're interested in participating in that, and we'll get that for you. We'll get you set up for that. We're going to start doing this next week, early next week. We were going to do it tomorrow. Was actually the date we were going to start, and actually we are going to start that with the IPC AP. The Asia Pacific team is going to actually start their beta tomorrow, but we'll start the full betas for everyone on Monday. So if anyone's interested in participating in this, just send us a quick email today or tomorrow, and we'll get you registered starting next week. And then we'll set up your test for you and all that to kind of take it. And our only request in this is that if you are registered in this as a to please kind of just give us any feedback you have of anything that's not working as intended. And we would appreciate that. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to give you guys I'm going to walk out of here. Just want to make sure you guys can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it, no problem.
All right, perfect. All right, so I think I probably have to log in again. Yep. Okay. So this is, again, please ignore all the extra buttons and everything that are on here. This is my admin account, but I wanted to show you guys the CSE class. So we'll pick 610 here. Okay. I'll view this from the instructor view first. Okay. So all I did was, as an admin, I get to switch different views to show you different views. So I'm going to show you what the instructor view is. Again, this is, it's very similar to what you've seen in the CIT programs. You have your profile, you have your same start here stuff. You have your essentials, okay, which is a requirement for CSE. And then you have you only have one module, and it has two tests. It has the general knowledge exam and then the standard endorsement. General knowledge exam is what we're calling module 1. Okay, so since module 1 is the same across, or it's virtually the same across the standards, we decided to just create a general knowledge exam. This will be developed even further moving forward, where this will kind of just capture general terminology and knowledge that you would need to understand the standard. And then this exam here, this separate exam here, will be focused on the actual endorsement. Now, one thing to notice on the CSE is that there are time limits for the exam. Right, your module 1 does have a 1-hour time limit, okay, and your standard endorsement exam has a 2.5-hour time limit, right, to complete it. Okay, and then you would do the same thing where you would schedule your exams in the exact same way. You have all the same functionalities, and it functions the same way as the CIT program does. Now, one change that we're doing, again, we're testing out some things with the CSE program, is that if you sign up for an endorsement, so remember how there were two different ways you can sign up. If we come here, actually, let me just jump over to CQI, and I'll show you very quickly. When there are two different, there's different options for registering in CQI. Okay, there's the initial certification, and then there's the endorsement, right? If you select the endorsement, right, you will only be able to add students to that class that already have a CSE certification. Okay, and when you do that, they're going to be put into a separate CSE course. Okay, so this is the 610 course for the endorsements. You'll notice, let me switch over to the instructor view. You'll notice that these students do not have the essentials or the enhanced policies and procedures. They don't have to do it. They don't have the general knowledge exam. They only have the standard specific exam. Okay, so when you're adding an endorsement, again, we wanted to make it simpler for them. You only have to take that one test on the new standard. You don't have to take the enhanced policy procedures or that kind of module 1 test again, that general knowledge test. Okay, that's the reason behind adding in the endorsement here, right? It allows you to register people into the right class. Now, the system will not allow you to add people to an endorsement unless they already have that initial certification, right? And that's how we're ensuring that everyone goes through enhanced policies and procedures once, but that the CSE doesn't have to go through it every single time. Again, this is something we're testing out with the CSE program that hopefully, if everything goes well this year with it, we can roll out to all the other programs as well. This will be the model for all new programs because since we're building an all new infrastructure for all new certification programs that come out, it's a lot easier to kind of implement this kind of infrastructure than it is for existing programs. If this goes okay with the CSE, if we don't find any major issues with it, then the goal is to start rolling this out for the CIT program and for the CIS program next year, hopefully. Okay. Any questions on the CSE that I didn't cover? Oh, that's a good question. Harry wanted to know what's the difference between CSE and a senior CSE. Good question, Harry. So the senior CSE is a recognition similar to the MIT and the CIT, except that it's really a recognition in the scope of your knowledge across different standards. So whereas a CSE is certified in one program, an individual can gain a senior CSE designation by being certified in multiple programs. Okay, and so more information on that will come out with the FAQ next week and the policies and procedures document. But I believe the number is 3. So if you have 3 different CSE endorsements, you can apply to become a senior certified standards expert. And again, it's just a recognition in the industry that you have not just a deep understanding of one standard, but of a variety of different standards in the electronics industry, right? So it's really more of a personal designation that someone can opt for. It's not mandatory in any capacity. We wanted to make it, we like to recognize people who have gone out of their way to really expand their knowledge. So, okay, let's jump back over to the CIT and the MIT. All right, here we go. All right, so as you guys are all aware, the pricing for the exam, for the CIT exam, is now going to be $475 for member, $600 for non-member. We did get a question about what the pricing was for the print exams. versus the online exams. So these are the fees for the online. The print exams, I think, are $15 more. So it would be for the member, it would be $490 instead of $475, and for the non-member, it'd be $415 instead of $615 instead of $600. So that's the difference between print and non-print. So what is included in this new price, and why did we do this? That's what we're going to talk about next. But let me just go over a couple of the key things before we kind of start going in depth into all these different aspects of it, and then I'll show you how this all looks and how it all works. So this fee is for the initial certification exam attempt and the free retest, okay, after the cool down period. That's what is included in that. If an individual fails both their initial certification attempt and a retest, they pay their normal retest fee. They don't pay an extra $475 or anything like that. They just pay their normal retest fee. 24 hours after gaining their certification. And we're really saying 24 hours, but it's overnight in the US. So for some people, it may be 12 hours. So 24 hours after gaining your certification, a new class will be added into the new CIT's dashboard in Edge. And that'll have all the training materials for all the new revisions. All the revisions that we have materials for that are up there already, as well as all translations and optional modules. So we'll kind of talk a little bit more about that, and I'll show you all that now in a minute. The MIT material pricing is also being lowered comparably to $400 for each program. For some programs, that's a huge discount. For some, it's a smaller discount, but for all of them, it's a discount. Again, if we're lowering the price for the MIT materials, we should do the same thing for the CIT materials. We should do the same thing for the MIT materials. So why did we make this change? Let's start there, and then I'll show you guys the change, and then we can kind of go through all the different FAQs that we've been receiving. So this is feedback that we had been receiving for as long as I've been at IPC. I've been receiving this feedback from the training centers. This is something, and from MIT's, this is something that we consistently hear. They did not understand why purchasing materials had to be a separate transaction, right? It seemed like it was a problem. It required the training centers to keep an inventory of CDs that was problematic. It was an issue when and because it was a physical delivery of CDs, it created a lot of different issues. So there was a lag time often before training can begin for the CIT if they had to order the materials from IPC. It's not like a CIT could become a CIT and then the next week start training, because if they had to order the materials from IPC because they did not have the materials at their training center, then all of a sudden they had to wait for all the shipment and all that kind of stuff of a physical CD. And then there's all sorts of issues with actually having a physical CD that we didn't even talk about there. What happens if my CD breaks? I got to buy a new one. What happens if I lose my CD? I got to buy a new one. That becomes a problem. This also created a problem from a programmatic standpoint, right? So because we had physical CDs that we shipped out with the materials, people would say, well, I submitted these issues with the materials. Why isn't there an update? Well, there may be an update at the committee level, but we may have to wait until the next revision in order to release those updates because of the fact that we have to generate all these new CDs with it, or a mechanism for you to make those updates. In the past, we have even gone so far as to, when there's a serious problem, send out an email on how to update the materials yourselves, which again caused more problems than it solved, believe it or not. It also meant that we, as IPC and the committees, the training committees, didn't have the ability to update the materials as often as we wanted to. So if someone submitted, for example, these great images or something like that and said, hey, this would be great for the training program, that's fantastic. We can wait 3 years before we can put it into the next revision. And then the other problems that we ran into was the constant need to purchase new things. So every time that if you wanted to teach a new translation, if you needed to have the base material in a different language, you had to purchase the same materials you already had in a different translation. If you wanted to teach an optional module that you were certified to, you had to purchase that separately, right? And you had to do that for every new revision, for every new program. And so part of what we were trying to do here was saying, okay, if we go to an online delivery mechanism, that lowers our cost because we don't have to create or ship CDs. So can we pass on those cost savings to the CITs and the MITs? And so part of what we were trying to do was say, hey, let's reevaluate these costs and figure out a way to kind of really lower the price of what we're talking about. So here's an example for 620, for example. So someone who wants to become a 620 CIT would have to pay for the exam fee of $65. Then they would have to, and this is assuming they're a member, because the costs are even higher if they're a non-member. So they have to purchase the exam fee. They have to purchase the kit, which is $485. And then if they're also doing the hands-on, they'd have to purchase a separate hands-on kit, and that's for another $100. And this is only for one language, right? So this is only in English, let's say. If I wanted to turn around tomorrow and teach this in Spanish, I'd have to pay these fees. Well, the kit cost and the hands-on cost again. And so the total cost for the program is $650. And so this turns into a significant savings for this individual. Every program that we did this for saves money at the $475 price point. Some of them only save $15, $20 or something like that. Some of them save hundreds of dollars. So it really depends on the program. We kind of wanted to simplify the whole thing. So the question is, here are some questions that we've been receiving. How often will new materials be released? Our goal is that each program will have a corrected, updated new material every year, right? So this would be material that's been approved by the committee, right? With our SMEs, where we have updated the material, we have upgraded the material, we have added new content into the training program or bettered the content in the training program, and then are putting it out. One of the things that Carlos Plaza, who some of you have already met, our Director of Education, is doing right now is we are going to be going back to all the committees, or we've started doing this already, kind of, and to get an understanding of what are the areas of the training materials we want to upgrade, because we're bringing on several talented new people, new graphic artists, and developers to help us develop all new material for these programs, right? So we wanted this be a constant work of improving the training process, the content, the images. We want to start being able to put in videos and stuff like that in there for the use of by the instructors, all that kind of stuff, to really improve the quality of the training programs across the board. So the goal is to put out new updates yearly, as well as a detailed guide for the instructors, kind of explaining what material has changed in that year. This is on top of, right, new materials anytime a new revision is coming out. So the question, second question is, how are new exams fees paid? The same way that they've always been paid through CQI. Nothing changes as far as how registration occurs. The registration for the CIT is the same way. The only difference from the instructor standpoint, the only difference that you're going to see when you register a student is a change in the price. Okay, so nothing changes, which goes into the third question. Nothing changes in the registration process. So another question that we've been getting frequently over the last couple weeks are the space and hands-on and optional module stuff included in this $475 fee, and what about translation? The short answer is yes, all of that is included. So if you have access to, and you'll see it in a moment, if you have access to 610, well, 610 doesn't have optional module, but 620, if you had if you were certified in 620, you would have access to all the 620 optional stuff, space hands-on, as well as any translations for 620 that are available. And with our new translation process that we're continuing to improve on, hopefully we'll be able to roll those out even faster in the coming years. Our previous revisions included in this, yes. You'll see that we'll have the newest revision, the previous revision, and we're keep adding older revisions as we update the content up there. So you'll see that all the previous revisions will also be included in there for download. Does the fee include a copy of the electronic standard? No, this was something that we moved away from. Is providing the standards as part of the kit. We moved away from that about 2 years ago. We started moving away from that. And the reason is that we're moving away from any sort of physical medium. We want to have electronic medium. And this kind of goes into the last one here, which is there DRM on the files? Is there software I have to download? Am I restricted on which computer I could put it on? The answer is no. We want to make this as easy for the instructor as possible. So if your laptop tomorrow is lost after you downloaded your materials, you can just log into your Edge account from any computer and download the materials again. So we want to make it as easy as possible. You don't have to download anything. You don't have to worry about any sort of the DRMs or anything like that. Now, with the standards, you will still have to use the DRM as previously. That's the DRM for the standards is not going away. This is just for the training materials themselves. Another question that we've been receiving is how far back will IPC be going to provide this access to CITs? That's a good question. So beginning on April 22nd, anyone who is certified on April 22nd or after April 22nd would get access to the materials automatically. Then over the next several months, we're going to start transitioning existing CITs to the new platform, right? And the focus is going to be on CITs that have purchased the materials and CITs that are already doing training first, all right? So we'll try to prioritize those CITs, bringing them over first into the new program. But I mean, these CITs should already have their CDs and everything. So is it imperative, and I should have written it here as a question, so I apologize that I didn't write it in there, but is it imperative then that we continue to sell CDs through April 22nd? Yes. Yes, especially if the CIT has any expectation of doing training, then I can't guarantee exactly when that CIT will be transitioned over. The older, rather existing CITs will be transitioned over to the new process. It will take, we will be doing it in batches. We will start off with our MITs first, and then we'll start moving over the CITs little by little, so as not to be disruptive to anyone. Okay. Again, anytime you make these kind of mass migrations of accounts, it could cause disruptions in the system, and we don't want to do that. So let me give you a walkthrough now on what this looks like from a instructor standpoint and getting access to the material. So first, when you go to register someone, other than the fact that this has changed, right? That the exam type has changed, and we've reorganized some of this. So first you select your exam type, then you choose which program you're training to, so CIT, for example. Then you select the course. Then you select your language. So I'm going to go with English. And then you select your revision, right? And then everything else is kind of filled out for you. You come down here and you say if you want online print, your start date, your end date, and then which invoice you're using for your credits, and then you can add your class. So nothing really has changed fundamentally. This is more of a reorganization of the order in which you fill in the information. Okay, and again, this was done based on feedback that we had been receiving specifically from MITs who had been doing registration, who were running into some issues because of the order in which this was filled out. So this should help simplify that for them. So back to Edge. When a CIT becomes a CIT, so I have just earned my CIT today, right? Actually, let's make it easier. Yesterday, I earned my CIT certification. Amy was my MIT. Today, when I go to log in to Edge, right, and I scroll down to my dashboard, I would see any of the programs that I'm already registered for. Plus, I would see the CIT resources for whatever program I am certified in, right? So if I'm certified in 610, for example, I would get this CIT 610 resources course added to my dashboard, okay? And then this acts like any other course in Edge. So when you select it, it will take you inside the course. Let me actually take this view, switch this view over to the view of a CIT so you can see it. So when I come down here, you'll notice that, ignore this. This is just something that we're using temporarily for us. This will go away, and this will be replaced by an announcement section. And this will be where we would put up new announcements about the materials. And that's where we put up the any user guides or anything like that we put up for the 610 materials and all that. So, so here, you're going to see three different options. This is the 610 materials that are universal across revisions. So when you click on it, right, it'll let you know, hey, these are the different set of files you can download. So for example, the 610 logos, when I click on it, it will open and give me all the different 610 logos in the different formats that we offer for people to download in. Okay, so you can come here and you can download a specific file if you want. Or if you click download folder, it'll download all of this for you in a zip file, right? Then when you come back here, this says here, so 610G, 610F, if I'm going to go ahead and click on G, right, it will tell me all the translations that are available for the materials. So if I want to download the 610G materials in English, I just come here to English. And you're going to see the different files. You're going to have the different PowerPoints, okay, with the different modules. So if I only need to download the module 5 because something happened to my module 5, I can just come here and click on module 5 and it will download module 5 for you, right? If I want to download the table of contents, it's here, the training schedule, and the checklists are all here. If I want to download everything, you just click on download folder and it will download a zip file like I did here a little bit before that'll have all the different materials for you in there if the zip file opens. There we go. So you'll have a folder inside the zip file. Well, you have the 3 PDFs. You have 3 PDFs and then the folder with all the PowerPoints in them. Okay. So our intent is to continue to populate this with older revisions and with any translation, and it'll be organized by revision, and then as the primary kind of organizational tool, and then the secondary organizational tool will be language that it's available in for download. Okay. Anytime a new revision is available, anytime a new translation is available, anytime an update to an existing set of files is available in your class. So for example, in the 610 class, which I'm in right now, if a new translation of 610 is available, there will be a message that will show up on my dashboard letting me know the next time I log in, letting me know, hey, 610G has been added in this language, right? If you want it, you can go to the class and download it. Here's a link, right? And that'll show up in your dashboard, right? It'll show up in your dashboard as a message, okay? There is a separate class for every set of material. CITs only gain access to the classes, right, that they are certified to gain access to. So if I'm only certified in 610, I only have the 610 resource class set up for me. I will not have access to all these other ones. Okay. Access to this is only available while you are certified. The day that your certification expires, right, that evening you will be removed from this class and will no longer be able to download any materials. One thing that I did want to point out is that you'll notice that there's a 620 class and a 612 class on the other one, and then there's a separate one for space. Okay, this is just a logistical thing because since you need to be certified to gain access to space specifically, it's just in a separate class. You still get it for free. It's still the same base price. You don't have to pay additional for the space materials, but you do have to go to a separate class to download it. All right. We're trying to figure out if there's an easier way of including this in the base class, but you'll be able to download all the materials here. So, yep, that's pretty much everything that we wanted to cover here. And we can answer any questions that people may have. Someone wanted to know if they can have a copy of the PowerPoint files. Sure, I have no problem getting a copy of that. They can. Amy, do you know how we can get PowerPoints out to people? Can we just post that on the CQI site? I don't know if Amy can hear me. We'll get a. I'm sorry.
I think that we may be able to include it along with the recording when we send it out.
Okay.
Confirm that.
Okay, so we'll try to get that out with the same recording. If we can't, we'll find another place to post it and let everyone know. So yeah, we can get you a copy of that. Harry wanted to know, can you get a CSE without any training? Yes, again, you can get CSE without any training. If you are a CIT and then you meet the requirements for the MIT, do you have to pay twice? I don't know what that means. I'm assuming that they're asking if you have to purchase MIT materials separately than CIT materials. Yeah, nothing changes in that. MIT materials are sold differently than the CIT materials. And that will continue in the same way. Yeah, same thing here. Can CITs and MITs continue to use their CDs for training after the download kits are available? Sure. If you would like to continue to use your kits, you can. I would prefer if you didn't use your CDs, if you used the downloaded materials, just simply because it allows us to update any corrections and updates. And like I said, one of the things that Carlos has been working on is we would like to have a new images, new 3D images, new videos, new content to make training better. So we're going to be releasing those through the downloads. So if you want to continue to use your CDs, no one's going to stop you. There's no requirement that you use a download. There's no way that we're going to know that anyway. But we would prefer for you to use the updated materials when possible, just simply because we feel like it's going to be a better quality training. Ross wanted to know if the MITs had the same folders as the CITs. Yeah, Ross, that's a great question. I'm sorry, I should have covered that before. There are MIT classes, resource classes, just like there are CIT resource classes. So it's a different class. So if you have a 610, if you're a 610 CIT, you have a 610 CIT resource class. If you're an MIT, you would have a 610 CIT class and a 610 MIT class. And your as long as your MIT status is designation is good and up to date, then you would have access to the CIT materials through that. Yes. Will the CIT have to pay $475 as part of their recertification as well? The answer is yes. The $475 is for every certification and recertification. Bill wanted to know about the MIT point system. So actually, Bill, the new version of the PMP with the point system is ready. and is going to be, the new draft is ready and it's going to be put up tomorrow maybe or Monday. I'm not 100% certain what day it goes up on there for you to be able to take a look at. But if you send me an email later, I'll send you a copy for it. What we decided to do, we actually got some great feedback at Apex. Some of the MITs were concerned that if we change the recertification process for MITs in the middle of the year, it may be detrimental to someone who maybe didn't have enough points. And we thought that was fair. So the way that we're going to be doing is that we're going to grandfather in any existing MITs so that they can recertify in the through the regular testing method through the end of 2019. So the point system will be optional through the end of the year. If you would like to recertify through points, you're more than welcome to do so, but it's not required. We've also decided to hold off on rolling out the point system for CITs until a later date. We're going to test it out first with the MITs. We thought it would be a good idea to kind of give ourselves, do a little change management and change a little bit slower and give ourselves time to test out the system, work out any kinks and stuff like that. Vicky wanted to know if you have to become an MIT to become a CSE. No, you have to be an MIT to teach a CSE class and to host a CSE exam, but you do not have to be an MIT to become a CSE. Anyone can become a CSE. How long do we have to exhaust our current inventory of CIT training kits and only pay the current $65? That is until April 22nd. If you have, and I should have mentioned this before, apologies, I didn't mention it. That's a good question, Rick. If you have extra CDs, as the training center has extra CDs that they would like to in inventory that they will not use by April 22nd, please contact Amy, and she can do an exchange for you. She can do I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I just step in?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
And please email your intent to do an exchange to customer service. So if you have training kits that are going to be unused, you're going to be allowed to exchange those for the purchase price, the price that you purchased them for. But you will need to include a copy of the original invoice that you purchased them with. If a standard was included with your kit, then the price will be less the amount of the standard. And when we receive the hard copy, when we receive that back, then we will issue exam credits for the equivalent cost. And you have up until 90 days from the go live date. So you have until the end of July to exchange any unused kits.
Okay. So, and if anyone has any questions on that and how to do it or needs help with any of that, please let us know. I wish there was an easier way of doing it. We tried to find the easiest way to make it possible for people, for the training centers to exchange kits that they may have had in inventory. This was the simplest way that we can kind of, we could find to do it. So if you need help with how to do that or how to walk through it, please let us know. We're always willing to help. We only have 2 more minutes, so I'm going to kind of do lightning round. Will the CSR materials and classes be part of the point system? I'm assuming Leo meant CSE. Materials and classes be part of the point system, and I'm assuming he's asking, will CSEs be able to recertify through points? And the answer is yes, they will. A CSE should be able to recertify by participating in standards committees, since they're standards experts. If I understand correctly, Wendy asks, if I understand correctly, a CSE is advised to follow a training, then has the same level of knowledge, but is not required to train or purchase materials. Wendy, that is correct. A CSE will have the same level of knowledge as a CIT when it comes to the standards, but is not required to do any training, nor are they required to purchase any materials. What will happen, this is anonymous, what will happen if someone buys training materials between today and the 22nd, but actually training takes place after the 22nd? Nothing happens. They can continue to use their CDs, and then when they get transitioned over to the new system, for the new kind of courses for CSE, they will be able to download the materials from there. But up until the point where they get added after April 22nd, they can continue to use their CDs.
Can I just come in here really quick? I know going through fast. I think this was also in relation to the training materials. If you have a class that is scheduled to begin on or after April 22nd, we will be asking you to delete your class, or at least delete the students, so that the cost is updated. The new pricing will go into effect for all classes that start on or after April 22nd. And if you have not deleted your class by that date, we will be doing it for you.
And if someone needs help with that, please let us know. We'll help you do that. All right. What does the CIT recertification process look like now? CITs recertify through using the testing, and they will continue to do testing again to recertify if they have met the requirements to recertify. The MIT has an optional point system that Ross is asking about. Will the PMP explain the point system? Yes, it'll be an appendix in the PMP. I think it's Appendix E or F in the PMP that will have the point system. Ross, if you want to see it real quick, just send me an email and I'll send you a copy of the appendix so that you can see it also. So you can see how it is. Again, though, that point system is going to be optional for MITs through the end of the year. Will the CIT program follow the same changes? That is a great question by Anonymous here. Yes, our goal would be for us to do the same thing with the CID materials. It becomes a little bit more problematic with the CID because there's student kits also. So we're going to be talking with the design council as we look to kind of update the PMP for CID. We'll work with the design council to figure out how do we want to kind of transition the materials for that. So that one's a little bit more complicated, so it's not rolling out right now. But yeah, our intent is hopefully in the future to do this with all the programs, for everything. And then Frank wanted to know, what does the cost break look like for multiple standards for CIT? Frank, if you can send me an email about that, we can discuss it more because I need to understand a little bit more about what you're asking. And then what are the content syllabus for the general knowledge exam? That is a great question. That will be available next Friday. There's a breakdown of it, but if you want it before next Friday, just send me an email and I'll send you the list. It's part of the PMP. It's in the PMP for CSE and in the FAQ as to what is covered in the general knowledge exam. But typically, just so you're aware, it's the materials that are covered in Module 1 of the test. So I think we made it through. Funny enough, I think we made it through all the questions, which never happens in these webinars, and we actually get to finish on time. So thank you very much for it, for joining us on this. If there's any questions that we didn't answer or any additional questions that you may have, please feel free to email us and let us know, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions for you. Like I mentioned, for the CSC program, the PMP and an FAQ. The FAQ is currently, I think, at 6 pages because we're collecting every question that we get and we're adding it to the FAQ. Will be available before next Friday. It may not be exactly on Friday. It may end up being Wednesday, but before next Friday, it will be uploaded into CQI, and we'll also send out an email letting everyone know that. We're also going to be releasing the new draft of PMP 7 for everyone to see. We are grandfathering in a lot of changes to 2020 to make it easier for a transition. Again, this is feedback that we received from our MITs at APEX, so thank you for that. So take a look at it, and we can, if you have any questions on any of that stuff, please let us know and we'll be more than happy to answer those for you. So I want to thank everyone again for joining us. I'm sorry that we're a few minutes over. No matter how often we try to end this right on time, we end up going a little bit over. If you have any other questions, concerns, comments, always please let us know. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day, and we will be talking soon.